We are going to be just fine, you'll see.
The garage door closed behind them with a sound that would echo in their memories forever. 8-year-old Maya pressed her body against her twin brother Marcus, their small frames shivering in the February cold. Outside, through the thin gap under the door, they could see the warm light from the house where they were supposed to be safe, the house where their uncle lived, the house where his wife had just locked them out for the night. "I'm scared," Maya whispered, her breath forming small clouds in the darkness. Marcus wrapped his thin arms around his sister. "I know. Me too." They didn't know it then, but this night, this cold, terrifying night, would become the foundation of something extraordinary. This is not a story about victims. This is a story about victory. My name is irrelevant, but what I'm about to tell you will stay with you long after this video ends. This is the story of Maya and Marcus Williams, twin souls who lost everything twice before they were old enough to drive, and how they built an empire from ashes. Before we begin, let me ask you something. Have you ever been told you were worthless? Have you ever been made to feel like you didn't belong in your own family? Hold that thought, because what these twins did with that pain will astound you. The day started with rain. Maya stood on one side of the double casket, Marcus on the other, their small hands gripping the cold metal railings. They were dressed in clothes that didn't quite fit, borrowed from neighbors who whispered behind raised programs about those poor babies. Their mother, Angela Williams, had been a nurse. Their father, David Williams, a mechanic who sang gospel songs while he worked. Good people. The kind of people who helped neighbors jumpstart dead car batteries at midnight and brought soup to sick folks without being asked. A drunk driver had taken them both on a Tuesday evening. One moment they were driving home from Marcus's basketball game. The next moment, they were gone. At the funeral, 8-year-old Maya didn't cry. She had no tears left. She'd cried them all out over the past 4 days, soaking her pillow until it smelled like salt and grief. Marcus stood stiff beside her, his jaw clenched in a way that made him look older than his years. He'd made himself a promise in the hospital corridor when the doctor first told them. He would be strong for Maya. He would be the man now. Their Uncle Jerome stood behind them, a tall man with kind eyes and graying temples. He placed a heavy hand on each of their shoulders as the pastor spoke about God's mysterious ways. "You'll come home with me," Jerome whispered. "Both of you. Your family." Maya looked up at him with red-rimmed eyes. "Promise. I promise, baby girl. You and Marcus are going to be just fine." But promises, Maya would learn, are only as strong as the people who make them. Jerome's wife, Linda, stood several feet away, her arms crossed over her cream-colored suit. She was a petite woman with sharp features and blonde hair pulled back so tight it seemed to stretch her face. When Maya tried to make eye contact with her, Linda looked away, her mouth pressed into a thin line. After the burial, as people filed past with their casseroles and condolences, Linda pulled Jerome aside. Her voice was low, but Maya heard it anyway. "Children who've lost everything develop sharp ears. I didn't agree to this, Jerome. They're children, Linda. They're my brother's children. We have our own life, our own plans. Plans change." Linda's eyes flashed. "We'll talk about this at home." That night, Maya and Marcus were driven to a house in a neighborhood nicer than the one they'd grown up in. The houses here had 2-car garages and manicured lawns. Jerome carried their small suitcases. Everything they owned fit into 2 pieces of luggage, while Linda walked ahead, her heels clicking on the driveway. "This is temporary," Linda announced as they stepped into the foyer. "Until we figure out a more permanent solution." Jerome's jaw tightened. "Linda, I'm just being realistic, Jerome. We're not equipped for this." Maya felt Marcus's hand find hers in the darkness of the hallway. They squeezed at the same time, a twin language that needed no words. "We have each other." Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. The first morning, Maya woke up disoriented. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality crashed back. The funeral, the strange house, the woman with the tight face and tighter smile. She sat up on the air mattress in the corner of what Linda called the spare room, though it was clearly a storage space with boxes stacked against the walls. Marcus was already awake, sitting cross-legged on his own mattress, staring at a photograph of their parents. "You okay?" Maya whispered. He nodded without looking up. Yeah, you. Yeah. They were both lying. Downstairs, Linda was already in the kitchen, dressed for her job at the bank where she worked as a loan officer. She looked at the twins like they were unexpected bills that had arrived in the mail. "There's cereal in the cabinet," she said, not looking up from her phone. Jerome already left for work. He's a supervisor at the plant, works early shifts. Maya poured 2 bowls of cereal with shaking hands, hyper-aware of Linda's eyes tracking her every movement. "Don't make a mess," Linda added. "I just cleaned this kitchen." "Yes, ma'am," Maya said softly. The first week established patterns that would become prison bars. Linda had rules. Many rules. The twins were to wake at 6, make their beds with hospital corners, and be dressed before coming downstairs. They were responsible for washing their own dishes immediately after use. They were not to touch the television remote, not to use the guest bathroom, not to enter Linda's bedroom, not to leave shoes in the hallway, not to speak unless spoken to when Linda had company. "I run a tight ship," Linda explained to Jerome one evening while the twins sat silent at the dinner table. "Structure is good for children, especially children who've been through trauma. They need boundaries." Jerome looked at his plate, saying nothing. Maya noticed that her uncle had become quieter since they'd arrived. The warm man from the funeral was slowly shrinking into someone who avoided eye contact and worked late. But what Linda did next crossed a line no one saw coming. It started with small comments. Observations delivered with surgical precision, designed to wound without leaving visible scars. "Maya, baby, you might want to do something with that hair. It looks unkempt." "Marcus, you're tracking dirt through my clean house again. Were you raised in a barn?" Then the comments grew sharper. "Your mother really didn't teach you table manners, did she? I don't know what kind of household you came from, but we don't act like that here." One afternoon, Maya accidentally knocked over a glass of water. It happened so fast. Her elbow caught the edge while reaching for the salt. The glass shattered on the tile floor, water spreading in a small puddle that caught the afternoon light. Linda's reaction was volcanic. "Do you know how much these glasses cost?" she shouted, her voice rising to a pitch that made Maya's ears ring. "Do you have any idea how hard I work to have nice things?" "I'm sorry," Maya stammered, dropping to her knees to pick up the glass. "I didn't mean." "Of course you didn't mean to. You never mean to. But somehow, my things keep getting broken." Marcus appeared in the doorway. "It was an accident, Aunt Linda." Linda's eyes snapped to him. "Did I ask for your input, Marcus? Did I?" "No, ma'am." "Then keep your mouth shut. Both of you clean this up. And that glass is coming out of your allowance." "We don't get an allowance," Maya said quietly. Linda smiled, a cold expression that didn't reach her eyes. "Exactly. So I guess you'll owe me." That night, curled together on their air mattresses, Marcus whispered, "How long do we have to stay here?" Maya didn't have an answer. In the darkness, she reached for her brother's hand. "We have each other," she said, repeating the only truth that felt solid. "That's enough." But even as she said it, she wondered if it really was. 3 months into their stay, the temperature of Linda's cruelty dropped from cold to Arctic. It happened on a Friday evening in February. Jerome was working a double shift, overtime he'd volunteered for, though Maya suspected he was avoiding coming home. The twins had finished their homework, washed their dishes, and retreated to their room, trying to be invisible. Linda knocked once, then entered without waiting for a response. "I need to talk to you both," she said, her arms crossed. Maya and Marcus sat up on their mattresses. "I found money missing from my purse. $20. Maya's heart dropped. "We didn't take anything." "I didn't say you did. I said money is missing." Linda's eyes were hard. "But you two are the only other people in this house." "Aunt Linda, we wouldn't steal from you," Marcus said, his voice cracking slightly. "Wouldn't you? You've been living here rent-free, eating my food, using my electricity. Maybe you thought you deserved a little spending money." "We didn't take anything," Maya repeated, tears forming. Linda studied them for a long moment. Then she sighed, a theatrical sound. "Well, someone did. And until I figure out who, I think we need to establish some new rules about trust." That night, Linda informed them they'd be sleeping in the garage. "Just until I can trust you again," she said sweetly. "You understand, don't you? I can't have thieves in my house." "Please," Maya begged. "It's cold out there. Should have thought about that before you stole from me." "We didn't," Marcus started. "Garage. Now, take your mattresses." They dragged their air mattresses through the kitchen, through the laundry room, and into the cold concrete space that smelled of motor oil and dust. The garage door had no windows. The overhead light was a single bulb that Linda controlled from a switch in the house. She stood in the doorway, backlit from the warm interior. "Maybe tomorrow you'll tell me the truth," she said. Then she closed the door. They heard the lock click. For several minutes, neither twin spoke. The darkness was complete. Maya fumbled for Marcus's hand and found it already reaching for hers. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too. Why is she doing this?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded different, older, harder. "Because she can." They huddled together on one mattress, sharing body heat. Outside the garage door, they could hear the faint sound of the television from the living room. Linda was watching her shows, comfortable and warm, while two 8-year-old orphans shivered in the dark. "Maya," Marcus whispered. "Yeah. We're going to get out of here someday." "How?" "I don't know yet. But we will. I promise." Maya wanted to believe him, but promises had started to sound like lies. They spent that night and the next 3 in the garage. During the day, Linda acted as if nothing unusual was happening. She made breakfast, went to work, came home, and made dinner. The twins were allowed in the house to eat, to use the bathroom, to do their homework at the kitchen table. But when night came, the garage door closed behind them. On the 4th night, Jerome came home early. He found Linda in the kitchen, humming while she chopped vegetables. "Where are the kids?" he asked. "In the garage." His hand froze on the refrigerator handle. "What?" "They stole from me, Jerome. I'm teaching them a lesson about consequences." "You put them in the garage?" "Linda, it's February. It's freezing." She shrugged. "They have mattresses. They're fine. Get them out. Now." "Excuse me." Jerome's voice rose for the first time since the twins had arrived. "I said get them out. They're children, Linda. They lost their parents. They're grieving. And you're treating them like criminals over $20. It's about principle. It's about cruelty. Open the door. Now." Linda's face flushed red, but she walked to the garage and unlocked it. Maya and Marcus stumbled out, blinking in the sudden light. Jerome knelt down, his eyes scanning their faces. "You okay?" he asked softly. They nodded, not trusting their voices. "Go to your room. I'll bring you some hot chocolate." After they left, Linda turned on Jerome. "Don't you ever undermine my authority in front of them again. Don't you ever lock those kids in the garage again. They stole from me." "Did they? Did you actually see them take anything? Or did you just accuse them because it was convenient?" Linda's silence was answer enough. "I found the 20 in my coat pocket this morning," she finally admitted. "But they still need discipline. They need structure. They need to learn. They need love, Linda. They need compassion. They're 8 years old, and they're orphans. They're your brother's orphans. Not mine. I didn't sign up for this." Jerome looked at his wife, really looked at her, and something shifted in his expression. "No," he said quietly. "I guess you didn't." He walked away, climbing the stairs to check on the twins. Linda stood in the kitchen, alone, her vegetables forgotten on the cutting board. In their room, Maya and Marcus whispered to each other long into the night. "Uncle Jerome tried to help," Maya said. "Yeah, maybe things will get better now." Marcus didn't answer. He'd seen the look on Linda's face when Jerome walked away. He'd seen the cold fury in her eyes. Things, he knew, were about to get worse. The twins made a secret pact. What they promised each other would change everything. It happened on their 9th birthday, a day that should have been celebrated but passed almost unnoticed. Jerome remembered, bringing home a small cake from the grocery store bakery. Linda forgot entirely, or pretended to. That night, after the awkward singing and the quick consumption of cake, Maya and Marcus sat in their room with the door closed. "We can't stay here until we're 18, Marcus said. "We'll die? Maybe not physically, but inside. We'll die inside." Maya nodded. At 9 years old, she already understood what he meant. "So what do we do?" Marcus pulled out a notebook, the kind with a black and white marbled cover that cost 99 cents at the dollar store. He opened it to a blank page. "We make a plan." "A plan for what?" "For everything. For getting out of here. For building our own life. For never being helpless again." Over the next hour, they wrote down dreams that seemed impossibly large for 2 children who slept on air mattresses in a storage room. Get good grades. Save every penny. Learn everything. Help each other. Never give up. Make them sorry. That last one, they underlined 3 times. Make them sorry doesn't mean revenge, Marcus clarified, his voice serious beyond his years. It means success. It means becoming so successful that they'll realize what they threw away. Okay, Maya agreed. Make them sorry by making ourselves proud. They shook on it, their small hands clasped in the dim light of the lamp Linda had grudgingly allowed them. The plan started small. Marcus began waking up at 5 in the morning to read library books about business, money, and success. Maya discovered she had a gift for numbers and started teaching herself advanced math using YouTube videos on an old tablet Jerome had given them for schoolwork. They became invisible in the way that strategic survivors do, anticipating Linda's moods, avoiding her sight lines, making themselves useful enough to keep, but unremarkable enough to ignore. But Linda's cruelty had a creativity that constantly surprised them. When Maya made honor roll, Linda said, "Well, it's easy to study when you have nothing else to do." When Marcus won a school art competition, Linda glanced at his drawing and said, "Your father was creative too. Look where that got him." The comment about their dead father crossed a line even Jerome couldn't ignore. "That's enough," he said quietly. "Oh, please. They need to hear the truth. Their father was a mechanic who barely made ends meet. If they think education alone will save them, they're delusional." "He was a good man," Jerome said. "He was a poor man. There's a difference." Maya felt something crack inside her chest, not breaking, but hardening, like water freezing into ice. That night, she added a new line to their notebook. Prove her wrong about everything. The years crawled by with the peculiar slowness of childhood suffering. 9 became 10. 10 became 11. The twins grew taller, smarter, more resilient. They learned to cook because Linda stopped making them dinner, claiming they were old enough to fend for themselves. They learned to do laundry because Linda refused to wash their clothes. They learned to be self-sufficient because dependency, they discovered, was just another word for vulnerable. Jerome tried. He really did. He slipped them money when Linda wasn't looking. He drove them to the library on Saturdays. He told them about their father, stories that made them laugh and cry and remember that they came from love, even if they were currently living in its absence. But Jerome was a man caught between loyalty and love, between his wife and his conscience. And in that war, he was losing. On Marcus's 14th birthday, everything fell apart, or so it seemed. The twins were walking home from school when they saw Linda's car in the driveway, unusual for a weekday afternoon. They entered cautiously, their senses alert for danger the way animals sense storms. Linda sat at the kitchen table, her face flushed with anger. "Sit down," she commanded. They sat. "I spoke with your school counselor today. Apparently, you both applied for boarding schools. Scholarship programs for underprivileged youth." She spat the last words like they tasted bad. Maya's heart raced. They'd applied in secret, hoping against hope that they might get accepted to schools far away from this house. "We just wanted to see if we qualified," Marcus said carefully. "You made me look like an abusive guardian. Do you understand that? You made it seem like I wasn't taking care of you. That wasn't our intention. I don't care about your intention." Linda's hand slammed the table. "Do you know how embarrassing it was to have that counselor suggest I might be creating an unstable home environment? Me? I've given you everything. You've given us a storage room and leftovers," Maya said quietly. The slap came so fast Maya didn't see it coming. Her cheek burned, her eyes watered, but she didn't cry. She refused to give Linda that satisfaction. Marcus stood up, his body shaking. "Don't touch her." "Or what?" Linda challenged. "What are you going to do, Marcus? You're a child. You have no power here. No money. No options. You will stay in this house until you age out of the system, and you will be grateful for it." Jerome appeared in the doorway. "What's going on?" "Your niece and nephew are trying to leave. Apparently, I'm not good enough for them." Jerome looked at the twins, at Maya's reddening cheek, at Marcus's clenched fists. "Maybe," he said slowly, "it's time we talked about alternatives." Linda's head snapped toward him. "Alternatives? They're not happy here, Linda. Can't you see that? Happiness is earned, not given. They need structure, discipline. They need love." Jerome's voice finally rose to a shout. "They need someone who actually wants them." The silence that followed was deafening. Linda stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. "Fine," she said coldly. "Find somewhere else for them. I've done my duty. I've played the martyr long enough." She walked upstairs, her footsteps echoing through the house. Jerome sat down heavily, his head in his hands. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, Uncle Jerome, Maya said. Yes, it is. I brought you here. I kept you here. I chose her over you, every single day. Where will we go? Marcus asked. Jerome looked up, his eyes red. I don't know yet. But we'll figure it out. I promise. Another promise. The twins had stopped believing in those. What happened next surprised everyone, including the twins themselves. The boarding school applications they'd submitted came back with unexpected news. Maya had been accepted to a prestigious STEM academy in Massachusetts with a full scholarship. Marcus had been accepted to an arts boarding school in Connecticut, also fully funded. They would be separated for the first time in their lives. The night they received the letters, they sat together in their storage room, both crying. We don't have to go, Marcus said. We can find somewhere we can stay together. Where? Maya asked. Another relative who resents us? Another Linda? Then we'll wait. We'll stay here until we're 18, and then? Marcus, we can't survive 4 more years here. You know that. He did know it. The house had already done damage they couldn't name yet, wounds that would take years to heal. What if we forget each other? Marcus whispered. Maya grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. We're twins. We shared a womb. We survived the same nightmare. We're not forgetting each other. Ever. Promise. I promise. But we have to do this. We have to take this chance. Okay, he finally agreed. Okay. Linda was thrilled to see them go. Finally, she said, not bothering to hide her relief. Finally, I can have my house back. Jerome drove them to their respective schools in August. It took 2 days, Massachusetts first, then Connecticut. At each drop-off, he hugged them tight and whispered apologies they were tired of hearing. Be great, he said. Be everything they said you couldn't be. We will, they promised. And they meant it. The boarding schools were revelations. For the first time in 6 years, the twins slept in actual beds. They ate 3 meals a day. Teachers asked them about their dreams instead of telling them to lower their voices. They had friends, real friends who chose to be around them. Maya discovered she had a genius for computer programming. By 15, she was taking college-level courses. By 16, she developed an app that helped underprivileged students find scholarship opportunities. A tech blog wrote about her. A local news station interviewed her. She sent the article to Marcus with a note. Step 1 complete. Marcus flourished in the arts program, but he surprised everyone by gravitating toward design and architecture. He had a gift for seeing potential in broken things, for reimagining spaces into something beautiful. His portfolio caught the attention of a prominent architect who offered him a summer internship. He sent photos to Maya with a note. We're doing it. They talked every Sunday night, no matter what. 2 hours on video chat, sharing their victories and their struggles, reminding each other of the pact they'd made. How's Linda? Maya asked once. Who cares? Marcus replied. She's in our past. We're building our future. But the past has a way of demanding attention. During Marcus's junior year, Jerome called with news. Linda wanted a divorce. She said I chose you over her. Jerome explained, his voice tired. She said I never supported her parenting. Her parenting was abuse, Maya said bluntly. I know that now. I should have known it then. Uncle Jerome, you don't have to apologize anymore. We forgave you a long time ago. I don't know if I've forgiven myself. After the divorce, Jerome tried to rebuild relationships with the twins. He visited them at school, took them out for meals, asked about their lives with genuine interest. He was trying to be the uncle he should have been all along. It was awkward, sometimes painful, but healing nonetheless. The twins graduated at the top of their classes. Maya was accepted to MIT with multiple scholarship offers. Marcus received a full ride to Parsons School of Design. They were both 18, both legally free, both ready to build the life they'd dreamed about in that storage room so many years ago. The night before college, they met in New York City, the midpoint between their 2 schools. They sat on a bench in Central Park, watching the sun set over the skyline. We did it, Maya said. First part, Marcus corrected. Now comes the real work. Making them sorry? Making ourselves proud. They sat in comfortable silence, 2 halves of the same soul, separated by schools and states, but connected by something stronger than proximity. Marcus. Yeah. Thank you for keeping your promise. Thank you for not giving up. Same to you. As darkness fell over the city, the twins made a new pact. They would succeed not because of the pain they'd endured, but in spite of it. They would build something beautiful not to prove Linda wrong, but to prove themselves right. The war was over. The building had just begun. 10 years later, a Mercedes pulled up to a house Linda barely recognized. Actually, that's getting ahead of the story. Let's back up. Maya graduated MIT with dual degrees in computer science and business. During her senior year, she developed a platform that used AI to match low-income students with scholarship opportunities, grant funding, and mentor programs. The app, called BridgeUp, went viral. Within 2 years, BridgeUp had helped over 100,000 students access over $500 million in scholarship funding. Maya was featured in Forbes 30 Under 30. Tech companies tried to buy her out. She refused every offer. "This isn't for sale," she told investors. "This is personal." Marcus took a different path, but one equally driven by their shared past. After graduating from Parsons, he started a firm called Second Foundations, a company that renovated blighted properties into affordable, beautiful housing for families in transition. Foster kids aging out of the system. Domestic violence survivors. Families escaping homelessness. "Everyone deserves a home that doesn't hurt them," he said in an interview. "Everyone deserves a space that says, 'You belong here.'" By 28, Marcus had renovated over 50 properties across 3 states. He'd been featured in Architectural Digest. His firm had been hired by 3 major cities to reimagine public housing. The twins had done more than survive. They'd built empires from their scars. They stayed close despite their demanding careers. Sunday night calls became Wednesday lunch video chats. They invested in each other's companies. They celebrated each victory and mourned each setback as if they were still 2 kids sharing an air mattress in a storage room. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon in March, Maya received an unexpected email. The subject line read, "From Linda Chambers." Maya stared at it for a full minute before opening it. "Dear Maya, I hope this email finds you well. I've been following your success in the news, and I'm very proud of what you've accomplished. I'm writing because I find myself in a difficult situation, and I was hoping you might be able to help. As you may have heard, Jerome and I divorced several years ago. Recently, I've faced some financial difficulties, medical bills, job loss, etc. I'm at risk of losing my home. I know we had our differences when you were younger, but I was hoping that perhaps you could see your way to helping me in my time of need. After all, I did provide for you and your brother for many years. Please let me know if you'd be willing to discuss this further. Respectfully, Linda." Maya read the email 3 times. Then she forwarded it to Marcus with a single word, "Wow." His response came back in seconds. "What are you going to do?" She stared at her screen for a long time. 10 years ago, she would have imagined this moment differently. She would have pictured herself responding with eloquent anger, with detailed lists of every cruel thing Linda had done. She would have crafted a response dripping with the justice of refusal. But now, actually facing the moment, Maya felt something unexpected, pity. Not the kind of pity that absolves. The kind that simply recognizes that Linda had built her life on bitterness and now had to live in the house that bitterness built. Maya drafted a response. "Linda, I received your email. I'm sorry to hear about your difficulties. I'm not able to provide you with financial assistance. However, I can offer you something else. BridgeUp has a program for adults returning to education or career training. If you're interested, I can connect you with resources for job placement, financial counseling, and housing assistance. I want to be clear, this isn't charity and it isn't revenge. It's simply an offer of the same opportunity you denied Marcus and me, the chance to build something better. The choice is yours." "Maya." She showed the draft to Marcus that night. "You're giving her a way out," he observed. "I'm giving her a choice. That's more than she gave us. And if she takes it, then she takes it. Our success isn't about her anymore, Marcus. It stopped being about her the moment we walked out of that house. Do you think she'll understand that? Probably not. But I'll understand it. And that's enough." Marcus smiled, a slow, proud expression. "Mama and Daddy would be proud of you." "Of us," Maya corrected. "They'd be proud of us." The response from Linda came a week later. It was short. "I don't need your resources. I needed your help. I guess I raised you better than I thought. You turned out just as selfish as I always said you were." Maya read it once, then deleted it. Marcus called immediately. "Did you see?" "Yeah." "You okay?" "Actually, yeah, I really am." And she was. Because the thing about building a life from broken pieces is that you eventually realize the people who broke you don't get to define what you build. They're just the reason you learn to be careful with your foundation. Linda's words had once been prison bars. Now they were just noise. The Saturday before their 30th birthday, Maya and Marcus stood together in front of a building in their old neighborhood. The neighborhood where they'd grown up with their parents, before the accident, before Linda, before everything. The building had been abandoned for 15 years. It was the old community center where their mother used to volunteer, where their father had coached Little League. Marcus had bought it 6 months ago. Ready to see it? He asked. Always ready, Maya replied. He unlocked the door. Inside, the transformation was stunning. Marcus had kept the original structure but reimagined every space. Where there had been decay, there was now light. Where there had been broken windows, there was now glass that caught the sun and threw rainbows across polished floors. This section, Marcus explained, walking through the space, is for after-school programs. Tutoring, art, music, anything kids need. This section is for job training and career development. And this, he opened a final door, this is for you. It was a state-of-the-art computer lab, equipped with everything young people would need to learn coding, design, digital skills. A sign hung above the door, the Angela and David Williams Technology Center. Maya's breath caught. Marcus, we built all of this, he said softly. Everything we achieved, every life we've changed, it started with them. With their love. I wanted to make sure their names lived on in something beautiful. Maya walked through the space, running her hands over the desks, the computers, the walls that her brother had designed with such care. When does it open? Next month. We're calling the whole place Second Foundation's Community Center. Because everyone deserves a second foundation, a second chance to build something stable. Maya turned to her brother, tears streaming down her face. They would love this. I know. They stood together in the center of the room. Two people who had lost everything and built it back better than it was before. Do you ever think about Linda? Marcus asked. Sometimes, Maya admitted. But not with anger anymore. Mostly I feel grateful. Grateful? Yeah. She taught us what we didn't want to become. And sometimes that's the most valuable lesson of all. Marcus nodded slowly. Uncle Jerome called yesterday. He's doing better. Therapy, new job, new apartment. He asked if he could volunteer here when we open. What did you say? I said yes. People deserve second foundations too. Even people who made mistakes. Even people who hurt us. Especially people who hurt us. Because holding on to that pain only punishes ourselves. Maya smiled. When did you get so wise? The same day you did. When we were 8 years old and decided we were worth fighting for. The community center opened on a Saturday in May. Over 300 people came to the ribbon cutting. Former teachers from their childhood. Neighbors who remembered their parents. Young people who'd used Bridge Up to access education. Families who'd found housing through second foundations. Uncle Jerome stood in the back, tears streaming down his face. Linda was not invited, though the twins suspected she'd heard about it. Their success had been covered in local news, national news, business journals. It was impossible to miss. But this day wasn't about her. It was about two children who'd refused to let cruelty define their capacity for kindness. It was about building something beautiful from broken pieces. It was about choosing every single day to be better than the worst thing that had happened to them. As Maya gave her speech, she looked out at the crowd and saw the faces of every person who'd told her she'd never amount to anything. Every teacher who'd underestimated her. Every relative who'd looked away. Every moment of doubt and fear and shame. And she smiled, because they'd all been wrong. This center, she said, her voice clear and strong, exists because two kids once promised each other they would survive. But more than survive, they would build something that mattered. This is that promise, kept. Marcus squeezed her hand. The crowd erupted in applause. And somewhere, in a small apartment across town, watching the news coverage on a television in a living room that had once felt so big and now felt so small, Linda watched the twins she'd tried so hard to diminish stand tall and brilliant and absolutely unstoppable. She reached for the remote to change the channel. But she couldn't look away. The twins had built their empire. And it was beautiful. The story of Maya and Marcus Williams is not unique in its pain. Too many children know the sting of unwanted, the weight of cruelty, the silence of adults who should protect them. But it is unique in its response. Because the Williams twins made a choice that changed everything. They decided their pain would not be their prison. Today, BridgeUp has helped over 2 million students access education. Second Foundations has provided housing for over 10,000 families. The Angela and David Williams Technology Center serves 500 young people every week. But more than the numbers, more than the success, more than the money or the recognition, the twins built something no one could ever take from them. A life defined by their choices, not their circumstances. A life built on the foundation of their own worth. A life that honored the parents who loved them and defied the people who didn't. If you're watching this and you've ever been made to feel worthless, remember Maya and Marcus. Remember that the people who wound you don't get to write your ending. Remember that survival is honorable, but living is the ultimate victory. Remember that you are worth fighting for. Before you go, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Because your story isn't over yet.